Welcome to the Living the Dream podcast with Curveball. If you believe, you can achieve. Welcome to the Living the Dream with Curveball podcast, a show where I interview guests that teach, motivate, and inspire. Today, I am joined by women's empowerment specialist, Johnelle Hosking. Johnelle has been in the empowerment section for 8 years. Her goal is to help you become the best you so you can thrive in your life, career, and relationships. So, Johnelle, thank you so much for joining me today.
Hey, Curtis, thank you so much for having me.
Well, why don't you start off by telling everybody a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure thing. Hello, lovely listener. My name is Johnelle. I am based in New Zealand. Might be a little bit of a different accent for the people on your show. I started my career in media and managed to somehow last 6 years there before finding this really big misalignment in that I was going to work every day. And honestly, I hated every single minute of it. I was living what you would say is the dream as a breakfast radio personality. And I would go home feeling like so drained, so exhausted. And I just knew that I had to do something about it. And so that sent me on a self-discovery path. Fast forwards to now, 2022, and I am full-time self-employed. I am coaching other women, helping them with their confidence and also their entrepreneurial skill set. So yeah, I just love what I do every single day. And it's so awesome to be here to be able to share the messages to inspire and to empower other people. So thank you so much.
So tell us, you didn't like radio. Tell us about your radio job. I love radio.
I mean, who doesn't love listening to radio? No. So when I was in high school, and I think I was 17 at the time, and I was doing media studies as one of my classes. And we had this young woman come and speak to us, and she told us how she was doing radio and she'd been studying and, you know, it was her dream. And I literally went home that day and I told my parents that I was quitting school and I was going to do radio. And I just had this confidence essentially that I was going to get into the radio industry and that I was going to be successful. And that happened, you know, obviously it was really hard work and it was a lot of hours and just constant work. You know, there really is no work-life balance when you're in the media industry. It's just work all the time. Every single thing that happens in your life becomes content. And so, I mean, I did it from the age of 18 right through till 23. And by the time I was 23, that's when I really started to feel this misalignment and really started to feel drained from it. So don't get me wrong. When I first started, I loved it and I was so aligned and it was my dream. But then as I grew as a person, what I realized is that the things we spoke about on the radio every day, you know, the entertainment, the gossip, it just wasn't for me. I wanted to be inspiring people and not talking about the Kardashians every day. I wanted to actually be helping people in tangible ways to really change their life, not just to entertain them, which is obviously what the media industry and what radio is. So it definitely has its place. It wasn't something that I wanted to do every day anymore.
So what made you want to get into the area of an empowerment specialist? I mean, there's a lot of ways to inspire and help people, but you chose empowerment.
Love that question. So while I was working in radio, I've always loved business and loved entrepreneurship. And the thing about radio and media is that that really is designed to help grow businesses. You know, we sell advertising to businesses and then we play music and we talk about entertaining things in order to be able to have people listening to the ads. So like you're helping businesses to grow. And so I really loved the entrepreneurial side and the business growth side. And while I was working in radio, I made contact with this lady. She just started a local business and it was all about health food. And like, I was a massive health nut at the time. And I just thought her business was so cool. So I went to her opening and I just gave her all of this advice on how she can improve it and how she can get out to more people and essentially just how her business can be a success. And then a few months later, this woman reached out to me and she's like, hey, I need your help. You know, when I met you, you were so helpful. And I want to actually pay you to coach me and to keep supporting me on this journey. And so that's when somebody literally fell in front of me, essentially saying, hey, I want to pay you to help me. And that is really what opened my eyes to the capabilities of being able to be of service and helping people. And that's really what led me on the path of coaching. So I had her as my first client and, you know, woman, I helped her with personal things. So her own self-empowerment stuff and her business growth as well. So it wasn't something that I ever intentionally set out to do, but people just kept coming to me after her. I ended up getting more clients. And then it got to the point where I thought, well, I probably should study. If I'm giving people this advice, I want to make sure that I'm credible in what I'm giving them. And so while I was in radio, I would work during the day, I would come home and then I would study for, I think, about 15 hours per week I was doing to get this health coaching qualification. And then from that was back in 2016. And from that, I've just done so much personal development since then. So yeah, really great question around how it came about. And absolutely, there are so many different ways that we can help people. And that's what I find so inspiring is like us as people, when we take the time to explore, you know, what motivates us, what our values are, and the impact we want to make on the world, we all find certain things that to other people, we might think, oh, wow, that's crazy. I would never do that. That doesn't interest me at all, but it lights your soul on fire. Then you can bring it into the world and use it to help others. And so women's empowerment, confidence, and business coaching is just where I've landed.
So what's the best advice you can give someone who is looking to grow their confidence and become like you?
Thank you. I love that question. The best advice I have for anybody who is wanting to grow their confidence is to really take the time to get to know yourself. And this can look like a lot of different ways, but in the most simplest form, it's probably spending time with yourself. I remember a time back when it was a weekend and I was sitting on my bed. I was scrolling through my phone, looking at my contacts, and I just burst into tears because I felt so alone. Like I had this phone full of contacts, but there was nobody that I wanted to spend time with. And I really didn't want to be by myself. And so at that moment, while I was sat there on my bed crying, I was like, Johnelle, this is not okay. You need to learn to spend time with yourself and to enjoy your own company. And from that moment, putting that into practice, really asking myself tough questions like, what motivates me? What are my personal values? What am I here on this earth for? And, you know, how do I want to be remembered when I'm no longer here? It was those kind of things that kind of opened up this world for me, and they can for you as well. And it really gets you to this point where, one, you know yourself, you know what you do like, what you don't like. And that in turn, like once you've got that, and when you're continually working to get to know yourself more, because obviously you'll change and you'll grow. So it's exciting because you can keep getting to know yourself again and again and again. And that alone, like doing that and focusing on figuring out that who you are and your own identity, that helps to build confidence. Because when you learn within yourself, you know what? I really do not like giving 40 to 60 hours a week of my time to this corporate industry that is not aligned with my own values. I then was able to be confident enough to look elsewhere and to find something else to do with my time. But I had to take that time initially to figure out those things and to grow that sense of self-awareness, which in turn grows your confidence too.
Tell the listeners about GGHQ and what's the mission of GGHQ? What's the initials?
Yeah, I love it. So GGHQ stands for Girls Get HQ. Now, I've said a couple of times, I love, the whole world of entrepreneurship and this idea that people can solve problems and create businesses and really make an impact in the world. Now, Girls Get HQ is one of those avenues for me. Say, as an entrepreneur, Johnelle Hosking, Girls Get HQ is one of those vehicles. And so that really is the name of my women's empowerment coaching business. So say if you were to want to look me up on Instagram right now, you could search Girls Get HQ, and that's where you'll find the majority of the work that I'm doing. And the mission is to transform the lives of 10,000 women around the world. And it's so crazy because to me, 10,000 people it's so many. It's such a big mission, but I'm also well aware that 10,000 people isn't a lot. But when your mission is to personally touch the lives of 10,000 people in some way, shape, or form through some kind of interaction, whether it's you listening to this podcast, and if that changes your life in some way, shape, or form, whether you work with me as a coaching client or hear me speaking at some kind of event and take those tools home with you, that's what's contributing to this transforming the lives of 10,000 people. So that really is the first level of mission for Girls Get HQ. And no doubt once we hit our goal of 10,000, that will grow. And no doubt by the time I'm much older, it'll probably go into the millions. I'm hoping anyway. That's where my inspiration's leading to, but we've got to start somewhere.
You absolutely do. So tell everybody about the biggest things that you see that are holding people back in today's society.
Oh, such a good question. I feel like, we all spend, whether we're intentional about it or not, I can't say we all, but the majority of us spend quite a lot of time on social media. And one, aside from the time that we're spending on there, that is time that we could be spending building and growing our own lives, our own identities, like I was talking about before, getting to know yourself, but also it leads to this sense of comparison, and that can really hold us back. So when we scrolling, whether you're conscious about it or not, you might do 15 minutes a day, you might do 2 hours a day of scrolling. And what we subconsciously are doing as we're scrolling through our phones, we're seeing these people who we've chosen to follow for the most part, right? So we're scrolling, we're looking at their photos, we're looking at their reels, we're reading their captions, and inherently we are comparing ourselves and where we are at in our lives to those people. And what that can do is that can start to create this voice inside our head, which tells us that we aren't good enough because our lives are in a different place to that person who we're comparing ourselves to on social media. The thing we need to remember is that people generally only share the highlights of their life. So all you're ever really seeing is a curated version of a person's life. So when you compare yourself to that person, it is so warped. It's not reality. And the worst thing we can do is compare ourselves and our journey to somebody else's. I used to follow this quote a few years ago that resonated with me so much because I followed a lot of inspiring people. So they put out really good, valuable content. But I followed all of these inspiring people who I looked up to, and I couldn't help but feeling really crap about myself because here I am, just new into this world of coaching, just new to this world of women's empowerment. And I'm looking at these people who have been doing it for 5, 10, 15 years. They have millions or, hundreds of thousands of followers. They have so many clients and customer referrals. And it's giving me this sense of disbelief, I suppose, and doubt that I can't do that. And I'm comparing my stage 1 to their stage 10. And so something that we are doing to hold ourselves back is this constant comparison, whether we're aware of it or not. Next time you go on your social media and you're scrolling, try and catch yourself in the thoughts that you're having around those things that you're seeing and see if this is something that's true for you. Because if this is true for you, and if you are comparing, then that is truly something that will be holding you back from becoming your best self, from living your best life, and for showing up super confidently. All right?
Right. And speaking of holding yourself back, we all have strengths and weaknesses. So give the listeners some best practices on working through any limitations we might have?
Great question. So I feel like I keep saying that to all of these questions. Limitations, right? We all have our own different limitations. And I've read so many different books and heard lots of different speakers and things like that over the years. And it's a very big mix of some saying take time to work on your weaknesses and to bring them up to strengths. And then the other half of people say, don't worry about your weaknesses and just focus on your strengths and keep strengthening those. So it's up to you in terms of limitations, whether you want to put the limitations aside, look at the things that you know that you're good at, you know they are strengths for you, and focus more on those. Or you could decide, you know what, I have this limitation of taking everything people say to me personally, and that is not something that I want to keep in my life. So I'm going to work on that. Things we can do to work on our limitations. I think the first and most important thing is to actually get aware of what those limitations are. You know how I said just before about a limitation of taking things that people say personally, you've got to be aware of things before you can change them. There's this saying that awareness precedes change. And so that is in every area of your life and the lives of those people around you as well. If you're not aware of something, you can't change it. So you want to get yourself aware of your limitations. And then from there, what I would do is I would kind of reverse engineer improving this limitation and either turning it into a strength, or you could just have this goal of making it neutral. You know, you don't have to be good at every single thing. I think that's quite unattainable. It's quite stressful. And I mean, it's going to put quite a lot on our plate, right? Because we've all got multiple things that we're not good at. So if you can reverse engineer it, what I mean by that is, you know, you've got this limitation that you take too many things personal and you don't, you know, you want to improve and you want to get better and release that limitation that you have. So that is your end goal. And then what you're going to do from there is you're going to split out that end goal into different kind of ideas. Have a little brainstorm on things that you can do in your day-to-day life that are going to help you to overcome that. So something could be journaling on why you do that. Like, why do you take it personally when people say certain things to you? Why does that get you personal? So you could do your journaling. You can get some support. You can work with a coach. You know, that is something that is usually a paid service, or you can also get an accountability buddy. And this is something I love, something that's free that you can do for any area of your life to help you overcome any limitation, to help you reach any goal you're trying to achieve, is get somebody who can be your accountability buddy. And that means that you can share with them your progress, you keep in touch regularly, you update each other, and then also they will do the same for you as well. And so if you're working on some goals or trying to overcome some of your limitations and your accountability buddy is as well, then you guys can both keep each other motivated and inspired and on track. And so there's just a couple of ideas around overcoming limitations. But one thing just to finish off on that I absolutely love is this concept of 1% better every single day. And so you've identified 1 or 5 limitations. You know you want to overcome these. If you have this mindset of 1% better every single day, when you wake up in the morning, you're just going to say to yourself, what's one thing I can do today to make my life better or to overcome this limitation? And before you know it, you would have got there. You would have reached that goal. You would have overcome those limitations, and your limitations will become bigger, you know, and you'll create new goals and new areas of work that you want to improve at. So I think that's a really good quote to live by, is 1% better every single day, because that is something that can literally keep you going and keep you motivated throughout your whole life.
Are there any current or upcoming projects that you're working on that people need to know about?
Oh, yes. So I, I have a lot of things on my plate that people need to know about. I, at the moment, am really loving my podcast called Girls Get Confident. Every single week, I release an episode that teaches you some kind of area of personal growth, which compounding, every single one of these episodes, if you listen and if you action even just 10% of the things that you hear, you're going to accumulate more and more confidence. And when we've got more confidence, we are more likely to reach for bigger goals. We're more likely to ask for pay rises. We're more likely to leave crappy relationships. We're more likely to stand our ground, know our worth, know what we will and won't put up with. And we're also more willing to do things way outside of our comfort zone, like maybe run a marathon, maybe save to buy a house, or maybe even quit our job and start our own business. So if any of those things interest you at all, go and check out my podcast, Girls Get Confident. I feel like that is probably also the place where I share upcoming projects and events and things.
Okay, so throw out the contact information. How can we keep up with Johnelle and see what you're up to? Website, social media, all that good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can check out my website, JohnelleHosking.com. I'm sure that Curtis will put my website in the description there in case you don't know how to spell my name. And also you can find me, like I said earlier, on Instagram, girlsget_HQ. There's some awesome content on there every single week as well with more tips for your confidence. So definitely go and check out Instagram and you can follow me there.
All right. Close us out with some final thoughts. Maybe something that I failed to touch on that you would like to talk about, or just any final thoughts you got for the listeners.
Oh, absolutely. I feel like you did great, Curtis. I can't think of anything off the top of my head that you that you missed out on. But I guess some closing remarks is that you have the power every single day to choose how you live your life, to choose what you do and what you don't stand up for. And it doesn't matter what happened in our past. And what I mean by that is, of course, bad things have happened. We've all been hurt. Some of us have been we've been traumatized, or we've had bad experiences. And what we can do as humans is we can let that be the story, but that doesn't have to be the story. That can be part of the story. That can be, chapter 1. And 10 years later, we are still living back in that chapter and in that story. And so what I want to share with you is that you can choose every single day to recreate your life and to consciously choose the life that you want to live. And that is something that you absolutely have the power over. So you don't have to let your past experiences or even the person that you have been in the past hold you back.
Ladies and gentlemen, Johnelle Hosking, please be sure to follow, rate, review, share this episode to as many people as possible. Keep up with everything that Johnelle is up to and check out her podcast. Johnelle, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your expertise with the listeners today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been awesome.
For more information on the Living the Dream podcast, visit www.djcurveball.com. Until next time, stay focused on living the dream.